It's really Ron. I'm Lynn Serrano. And you are? You are?
I'm Brian.
Actually, if I showed you what really who's over this way is, I'm going to show him really quick. Little Baker, man. He was sitting here with the intro. He's dancing like this.
Of course. I wonder where you got that from.
I don't know.
It's all within Lynn's bloodlines.
That's my daughter got a kick out of that one.
Hell yeah! It's like, where did my daughter get it? Wonder where my grandchild got it.
And he's still good. He's still good.
Well, just so everybody knows, for those of you that are tuning in that don't know Lynn, that's what she was like when she was born. That's what she's like when she's at the bar.
Yeah. I just wiggle. Hi, Brian. So how's things going?
Going good. I got a lot of crap to do today. I got therapy today, and right after the show, and got a big list to tackle today. So.
Cool. So, all right. Well, we're doing the week on the road, which is funny because you've been on the road. I'm on the road this week. And then there's purpose and intention. So, we're just showing up no matter where we're at.
Yep.
That's how we roll. It makes people stay tuned, right? This is my daughter's clock from the Magnolia.
Heck yeah, from what is it? Chip Gaines and his wife Joanna.
Yeah. So I was trying to get that in there, so I'll get it in for a minute.
I'm like, oh, fancy Waco, Texas, Magnolia. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, they got their own network. They got their own clothing line. They got their own bed and breakfast. I think they own a hotel too.
I got to show off my grandson. He's going to be a year. He's going to be a year Friday.
Oh my goodness!
Say hi, Brad. And he's a before COVID baby. He just happened to be born right when when lockdown started. So, So yeah. Anyways, I just had to show him off for a real.
Well, yeah. Thanks to all of our loyal listeners and viewers that are catching us for day number 2 of the week of the open road, and then for anybody catching the replay, we're happy you're here, taking your time with us.
Absolutely. So, no, my daughter went to go do a Pilates thing, and she wanted me to watch him. I'm like, why not? So here
I couldn't do that. No, it's sacrilegious. No, I'm not going to look after my grandson. No.
Oh, it was a great reason. It was a great reason to get out and come and see him. So, anyhow, this whole purpose and intention. I went ahead and got the definitions. Should I put those up there real quick?
Well, like yesterday, we talked about clarity. For those of you that did not catch day number 1, it's highly recommended that you go back to day number 1, which is all about clarity. And that visual that Lynn just put on the screen about the open road, there was a lot of them I chose on, that I had to pick from online, but this one spoke to me. Obviously, being a Midwestern boy, I don't see desert or anything like that, but there's trees. But when you look up in the sky, you can see that there's some dark clouds, and then off in the horizon, you see the light. And I think that that's really the symbolism of what we're talking about matches, is that over the past several weeks, we've been talking about struggle, overcoming things that go on in your life, and then obviously seeing the light, right? Which is another way of, that you've got an open road. You've gotten rid of everything, or maybe it's the wrong choice of terminology, but you've completed matters that no longer have influence or control over you. And so when you have an open road, it might be a place you've never been to before, but it's a place that you can make entirely your own without any manifestations of the past. So day number 2 is about purpose and intention. So it's like, after you do get clear, it's like, okay, what's your reason for going on this trip? Like Lynn mentioned yesterday, she's going to be on the road traveling. Okay, what's the purpose, right? What's the intention, right? I'm more, I don't know. I mean, those words might be semantics, just like manifestation versus creating. But it's like the only person it has to make sense to is you. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else, right? Why would somebody travel across the country to hang out with people and go back home? Well, I don't know, because they can. It's not rocket science. you know?
Well, my purpose is go see my daddy and see
Right.
people on the way there. So
Right.
yeah. So yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I have connected with so many new people that I feel like shit. Why not meet them in real time, which I think is great. I mean, if I'm driving through their state, why not? So
well, and I think that brings up a huge point, is because somebody's looking for this big, worldly, big, puffed out, understanding, like making it bigger than what it is. And it's like the longer that you have to look for your purpose or intention, I think that you're missing the boat.
right.
Because a person intention is not out there. Like if you're trying to concoct it versus just be with what it is and what you feel and what your gut's telling you, I think you're trying way too hard. And the only person you're trying to look good for is yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, is that how many people, myself included, I'm sure, for you too, Lynn, is that the bigger that you make something, the less you actually do any of it.
Right.
It's like, ooh, it's going to be this. Or you talked about like what would hold somebody back from going on this trip all the way, from where you are in Montana all the way to Long Island in New York, is like, oh, what if I have an accident? What if I have engine trouble? What this, what that? It's like, okay, is that a possibility? Yes, but it's going to be less possible if you maintain your car before you leave, if you get an oil change, right? And so, man, without clarity,
it's so much you're leaving to chance and purpose by giving yourself a good excuse of why not to do something.
Right.
It's just like my daughter yesterday. She's like, Mom, I want to go to this Pilates class. She goes, Mom, I was going to call you this morning. Says, I was excited yesterday. I wasn't excited today. And I'm like, I'm glad you're going.
Yep.
See, I mean, that's just it. You can talk with time. You could talk yourself out of anything and justifiable freaking excuses,
right.
And so like, I'd really like to skydive someday, but supposedly with all my arthritis and my necks and all this, and I'm like, they're telling me all this, but I still don't believe that shit because there's been 90-year-olds go. Don't tell me they don't have degenerative disease like I do.
Right.
They're freaking 90. What, did they have the ambulance right there to say, okay, we're going to be burying them after? I mean, what the heck? Why are you telling me this, So, thank you, Michelle, for being here. I get to interview her this week. So thank you so much for being here. But
Thanks,
Michelle. it's the whole thing of like, I don't believe that I'm going to have to read this waiver to skydive. Like if I get to a certain way and all this stuff, and I mean, your knees, I got bad knees. So what? Pick up your knees. They do all the work. So I still can't believe some are saying, well, you're not really a candidate for this. Well, I'll get my affairs ready or whatever, but I don't think that's going to stop me someday. I really don't, because it's an excuse.
Yeah. Well, and plus, you give me somebody that doesn't know where they're going, like on a hamster wheel, and I guarantee we could go back to what we talked about yesterday and add on to it today. Guaranteed.
Yeah. So the whole thing is, you have a good intention and all of a sudden you give yourself that out. Like I said, what's her name gives you 5 seconds. I say 1, 2, 3, man.
Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins. There you go. I got the 1, 2, 3 moment. 1, 2, 3, get rid of that negative thought and move on. I mean, I know we all need, therapy and all this stuff to realize stuff, but truly, when you realize you're safe right now and you have to work on those issues, you should always just stay in the safe put. Like, look, right now you're breathing, you're okay, everything's okay. And then work on those problems, with a therapist, with a coach, with all those things, but you got to start somewhere to help with that anxiety and everything like that.
Well, and here, let me give you case in point, everybody, is that I've been going to therapy for my anxiety and depression for about 3 years. Okay. I'm down to once a month. Okay. I have an amazing therapist. She's awesome. PhD, I can be real with her. Now, the difference in how it ties into this conversation is the difference between me just showing up and whatever's top of mind or whatever trickles out of my brain is what we talk about over an hour, 50 minutes, versus me showing up prepared to talk about some touch points or what are highlights or wins or losses or whatever over the past month, right? Until I actually did that, it was a clear difference in terms of how well therapy works for me. Because either I show up prepared, because she's not there to waste time. She's not there she'd rather deal with somebody that has taken a vested interest in their well-being and their mental health than somebody that is just there and hopefully she can touch that person in such a way mentally that gets them to see something, right? And so the same thing applies to what we started to talk about yesterday, is that if you do nothing, you'll still be alive. That's the basic human instinct, is just to stay alive. The amygdala, right?
Right.
Stay alive, right? Primal instinct. And you know what it's going to give you because you're living it right now.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to get clear, if you're going to create a purpose and intention, now, just like every road of your life, like what we talked about yesterday, you can create a road for every part of your life, right? Your spiritual, your physical, your mental, right? And those are all areas to work on. And when you get all of those areas of your life to an open road, you should be very proud of yourself, because there's no manifestations of the past. It's everything out in front of you. Now, the purpose and intention adds on to that you're taking a stand for what your life looks like. That you want more out of life. You're not content with where it is, or you're not going to settle for that. So there's a difference between doing nothing, which will give you more of what you probably don't want, versus doing something about it.
Yeah.
So there's so much of this tied into other areas of life and the parallels between everything. And there's a clear difference between, like, let's put it this way, Lynn. If you plan out what days you might be in certain areas, like states and all the people you want to see, that's going to be a heck of a lot better, because it affects more than just you, right? If you map out in your head as far as the purpose, the intention, why I'm going to drive hundreds of miles or thousands of miles between different people, it makes sense to you, and you're not going to settle for anything less.
Right.
But if you don't have a purpose or intention, you might even wonder why you're even going there. You might, I'm not going to reach out to them. They don't want to talk to me, or they're busy. And it's like, well, that's a story you're creating for yourself. Yeah. Now, do you know if it's true or not? No, because once you actually have an intention, once you derive at what that is, now there's accountability for taking action. When you reach out to those people that I'm going to be here on this day cruising through your town or your state, let's get together for an hour. Now I have to be accountable to getting there. Right. I have to be ready. Right. And that right there is a difference maker for a lot of people.
And you just invoke the word assumption. Yep. There's so much assumption to purpose and intention from every angle that you look at the spectrum of it, that you miss the core of what's going on. It's just like building a house, right? You got all these people doing different projects, walls and all this stuff. And your assumption is it's not going to be big enough. It's not going to be this. Why is this here? This or that. They're going by a blueprint. They are going by a blueprint, but you're in there assuming that this isn't turning out the way you expect it to be, Right. And because when you're in a construction area, you're pretty much, you can't have that depth perception. You can't have that clear perception because you got all this stuff around, all this clutter and all this stuff. And that's how our brains are. Our brains are just so mapped up with so much stuff. And you got to look for that center core of where the mission is. It's just like you're playing a game or whatever, football, you got to go for that goalie. You got to have that point of reference of where you're going and where your energy is going and the purpose of it all.
Yeah. I think that for me, when I look at intention and purpose, is that it's as much about creating that roadmap as it is about how you feel about doing it. Right. Mm-hmm. I would almost say that, because obviously it's like, okay, if I want to do this project, I know what I need to do, which might be robotic, or it might be some things I don't want to really, that's not my zone of genius.
Right.
But I'm going to do it anyways, because I know that how I'm going to feel, not only going through it, but then also though when the project is complete. And so I'd be willing to say that anything that you're willing to derive purpose from and intention with it's as much about how you feel about doing it, where you're making a commitment to yourself. Now, can you change it? Is there a deadline? Can you restore your integrity if you don't get it done when you say you're going to do? Absolutely. But you're having that connection with yourself, that it's like, for me, purpose and intention, like for instance, if we took your scenario, when coming up in June, when you're going to travel, right? The purpose is, I want to see these people and I want to reconnect with family. Let's just say that that's your
Yep.
purpose or intention, right? Well, that that's going to waver throughout that journey, right?
Yeah.
Because of all of the driving and endless hours on the road, but those moments of being around people and what is really guiding you to take the trip, that's what's firing more times than not, because it's either your purpose or intention exceeds how you feel about it, or it tussles back and forth.
Yeah. Well, like I shouldn't confess this here for all my friends or whatever, but last June, I took a trip to Syracuse, New York. I drove, and I only saw a few friends, not all my friends. Oops. But it was COVID time, so I didn't do that. But the thing is that, I wanted to go back. I wanted to go drive by my old house where my mom lived before she passed, and just see some friends that mean a lot to me and things like that. But it's one of those things where my intention is that every summer since my kids were small, I would go to New York every summer. So that's kind of something that I've had, wanted to do. And then with Ricky, I didn't go back except for when my mom passed away. So I missed a lot of friend time. So I just wanted to go back again. And this time I went without my kids. That was like really different for me. So it was a journey. And, I survived it, got there and back okay, the whole 9 yards. So it's like, why not take another adventure? Go down this way to Florida, then go up to New York, and then make it way back. I'm going to end up with seeing you. So it's going to be really cool. And that's what I'm focusing on. I'm not focusing on anything else but that. And it's truly, it's a point of, because it's my desire and it's because something I want to do.
I think that you touched on a really big word too, that ties in well with purpose and intention, is want, right? What you want is something that you take a personal ownership of.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing stands in your way versus like a need, or if something is imposed upon you. And if you hear this rippling noise, I'm just making up some little slips for our Friday show. So if it's loud and I'm looking down, I'm just writing down some words.
Cutting the sheets.
Yeah. But it's and so I just have to say that, because it's like, okay, a need versus a want, right? When you want to do something, you're telling yourself consciously that I don't know what this is going to look like, I don't know what effort it's going to take, but I'm gonna get there, right? Versus a need, where it's something life or death, or it's something you're perceiving as life and death, but it's really not, right? It could be an impulse. So I think that just how the brain processes things determines what it looks like. And if something is a want, it's like, it's definitive. You puff out your chest, you're not going to take anything less than that happening, and you do it. But you also know that it's kind of like you're immune to that. There's going to be downtime. And in order to get to the good stuff and seeing the family members and the people, that I'm going to have to drive for many hours of probably boredom.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm glad I have 2 months to get my psyche up for this, 2 whole months to say, I'm going to do this, because, especially by myself, but I'll have friends that FaceTime me. I'm sure Brian will check on me. I'll have enough people checking on me and keeping me, accountable on the road. And that's always been nice when I travel. Friends call me and see where I'm at.
Well, so, the first top of mind awareness would tell me is that given your personality, whenever you stop, you create a game out of it. Right?
Yeah.
You gamify it a little bit. You create it like a fun moment where it's like, hey, the most random places I never knew I would go to.
Yeah.
And it's like, or you look for something that it's like, so people track your journey, but it's something fun versus like, who would have thought that Nebraska is known for corn? Who would have thought? You know what I mean? Like, that's an entirely different mindset than somebody, oh my God, I just drove 12 hours through Nebraska.
Yeah.
How mind numbing. Oh
yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be an adventure. It'll be quirky. It'll be goofy. And I've got enough friends that'll, check up on on me. Yeah, Google allows you to like text over to anybody your itinerary so that they can see where you're at. So yeah, it's so much better than what it used to
Well,
be.
and plus, I mean, if you have stops along the way, I would be in conversations with those people. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm coming to you tomorrow. I can't wait to see you. So it's like something always to anticipate and look forward to.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because obviously as well as I do that when every extra hour you put in on the road or extra 50 miles or whatever, that stuff adds up after a while.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's amazing, like you just talk to somebody and you have a great conversation. It's like, wow, I just got this blast of energy where I can go another 100 miles.
Oh yeah, and that's what's nice, but with planning, even just a trip across the United States, that takes the idea of, implementing the fun things about it. Not all, like, oh man, like going to New York, I had some friends at certain times they would call me, and other friends would call, like everybody took shifts to be with me, and then of course they were worried because of COVID. So I mean, like, and it was great. Like everybody was, where are you? What are you doing? And, except for the nighttime, like, oh, I'm good. I made it to my place. It's, but it is nice that you can do those things. Anything's possible if you look at the possibilities,
Well, if you, like anything, if you do the work up front, it's going to be a lot easier on the back end.
Oh yeah.
And to give credit where credit's due, like Jeffrey Gitomer says, let's see here. What did he say? It was something along the lines of, if you're willing, be willing to do what others are not willing to do to get what others are not willing or don't, So what it pretty much says is that are you willing to do on the front end to get what others don't get or can't get?
Right.
Right. And so I might have butchered that, but I know that he has a quote that's very similar to that. And I've heard it several times by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and other people, but are you willing to do, what it is? Are you willing to do what it takes right now to get what others don't have, like selling skills and all that, whatever that is, whatever you want to get great at, put that in that slot, given your business or what you're up to. And you either see it through or you don't.
Let's consider like Michael Jordan. I mean, he dribbled and he missed more shots than anybody because he practiced longer. Or let's look Tiger Woods. It's the anomaly of saying, hey, this is it. And then people are like, it's like you weren't there to see the process. You weren't there to see, what took to create that. It's just like people are just like, wow. It's just like you can have that too, because those are skills that you have to just practice to get.
Right. Well, when somebody's pursuing their passion, they don't consider it work.
Right.
That's why they're able to invest 16 hours, 20 hours a day, being willing to go against the grain of people thinking that they're weird or different.
Right.
It's because they see something that nobody else sees, and that's okay. But you give me somebody that is done anything major, and I guarantee it's been 10, 20, 30 years in the making.
Absolutely.
Like John Lee Dumas talked about, his new book that's coming out. He was on a podcast with Scott Ingram a couple days ago, and he talked about that this book has been 10 years in the making. Right. So it's like, okay, somebody's given you 10 years of experience. Here you go.
Right.
In a book format. You didn't have to go through all the lessons. I put them down on paper. I racked my brain with a 71,000 word book for you to get all this information from, and you didn't have to go through what I went through.
And it is funny though that somebody puts their passion and skills and all this, and somebody wishes they could be where that person is, and yet it only takes to apply to read that to get where they want to, but they won't even do that.
No.
I mean, it's great that when people finally say, oh, let me check into this, that they check into it, but they're like, shit, I ain't gonna do what it takes to do that.
Right.
It's just like creation. It's like creating.
And that's why I disagree with some of the business people out there that talk about competition and whatnot. I mean, now I'm only speaking from my point of view where there's only one of me. right? And so when it comes to what you just said, it's like, okay, knowing that there's a lot of people that they have no idea what it takes to dive in and to do what others are doing and what they've done successfully, they end up stopping. Well, there's always going to be a new group of people that are unfortunately going to witness that.
Right.
But it's like, whoa, I'm not willing to do that. Okay, well then, are you willing to pay the price? No. Okay, well then, that's why you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just that you're not willing to do what it takes. So that's why, in my opinion, we are our only competition, right? When we bring out the best of ourselves and we do it in our own way by maintaining our authenticity and really diving down deep. So 1 inch wide and 10 feet deep, right?
Yeah.
We do that for ourselves. We know ourselves better than anybody else. You know, we're with ourselves every day. How can that be a detriment if we know what we're made out of?
Do you find it kind of funny, though, how some people, like, it takes them to have competition to see someone else to do it, to actually get motivated to do something when again, they don't take it here. Hi, Eamon.
I mean,
They're just sitting there going, they wouldn't have done it for themselves or see it within themselves, but they do feel like that competition's necessary for them to take action. Not sure why that invokes in other people when they realize that they should be competing.
I think what it is that it could be for several reasons, and I'm just, you know, I'm shooting a dart at a blank wall, right?
Yeah.
But I think though is that they don't feel lonely, but there's evidence and proof that there's somebody to aspire to be, right? Is that, like, with anybody that wants to be anything great, usually they model people that are already doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because then it's proof, right? It's undeniable.
Right.
And like business experts always say, is that if you want to be somebody, if you want to do a certain thing, model the behaviors of those that are already doing it.
Right.
That's not rocket science.
Look at our message there.
Knowing ourselves is different than belief. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's all well-rounded if it's going to work, because with the ebb and flow about how we think, one day could be 70% of what it was yesterday, right? How we feel yesterday doesn't, you know, it could have remnants of yesterday, but it can be entirely new.
Right.
But that's if we're free to choose what every day looks like. Yeah. And that, well, I didn't get a lot done yesterday. Okay. If you leave it just with that, you know, and just cut it like a knife, instead of bringing it over to what today looks like, well, wait a minute, you're not free and clear to just be today. You know? So with, I think Eamon is, Eamon, I think what it is that they're married together.
Yeah.
Who you believe yourself to be and who you are, but there again, you're yourself.
Right.
The minute that you start to be somebody else and a fraction of yourself goes away, I'm not wired that way.
Yeah. Well, you know, we got so much stuff that happens in our life that rewire who our core is, and then we have to peel that onion to get, you know, to whatever. But I still tell people, be centered right now. You know, whenever you get overwhelmed, just be centered right now.
Right. Give
yourself that moment, that time, you know, and ask yourself, what's my purpose? What's my intention?
Right.
You know?
Yep.
Is my purpose?
Well, and here's the thing is that with purpose and intention, I think, you know, yes, you have to have whatever that looks like in terms of, you know, the processes or the things you need to get done. But I think it's more about how you feel. Right. And it's like, what can generate that feeling of intention, that I matter in the world, that I'm doing what I'm loving to do. Right. Like with you at the LA Tribune. Right. You know, your intention, you're resourceful. You know, a lot of people. You've got a craft. You've got an art for the way that you live stream. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And so that I'll say another reference to Jeffrey Gitomer, because to me it goes to my core. Is that thanks, Scott.
Scott is my first boyfriend, 12 years old, and he's a podcaster. He's been in productions. He's been in radio stations. He's an awesome guy. Now he does drug addiction counseling for institutes and stuff. So you'll get to meet him. We're going to do a podcast sometime soon. So thanks, Scott, for being here. I appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, Scott. Thanks for tuning in.
So
it's just fun. what Gitomer says is that don't compete against, differentiate from.
Right.
Now, obviously, that's in a context of salespeople and competition and products and commodities and stuff like that, but it's also people, right?
Yeah. I mean, look at marketing. Look at marketing. I mean, marketing goes in that, what's the purpose? What's the solution to the problem? And then they get to your emotion. And emotions, like you said, is what you feel. And knowing what you feel, you get trapped into that, and it can take you away from your purpose or your intention. And then you're pretty much screwed there. And that's not a good thing either. Thank you, Iman. Yeah.
Thank you.
We enjoy what we're doing, and Scott gave us thumbs up. But
Cool.
but seriously, it's one of those things that you truly have to have that huge why. Why are you doing that? What are you aiming for? What at the end? What's your end result? You're building a house. You have a blueprint. You've got to leave it up to the contractors and everybody. But what was your purpose or intention for those blueprints? If you don't even know from there, what the hell you think your house is going to look like?
Right. I also think that to some people, the whole thought about, the outcome or what you want to have at the end, I think may be conceptual to some people depending on how they're wired, right? But what I can say, I'm a visual person, but I can say is that if you look at everything on the front end, it's going to become very congested and murky, and I don't know, there might be a lot of noise in that, right? Because it's like, okay, whatever that is, like Lynn, in your case of going to see your family, it's like, okay, plant visuals about what it might look like to be with those people.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? How you want to feel, plant that seed, right? Create those experiences in advance, because then when they actually happen, they're reinforcing what it is. Now, what happens is that a lot of people look at, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Am I good enough? Da, 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 da. That's all right here when they haven't even taken a step.
Yeah, it's too much noise. Too much noise from getting you to go where you need to go. And when I set my intentions, I always aim to my intentions, and that's why I'm always careful of what I create, or what I think, because I know it's powerful. Well, I know that it comes out one way or another.
Well, and here's the thing is that when I'm a huge fan, especially when I create weddings for a living and corporate events for a living. Okay. Everything from the concept to having all the people aboard to how everybody feels when they're going through the event, right? When they're partaking in the festivities. I'd rather reverse engineer that. To me, there's two different types of outcomes. There's a desired outcome, which would be from the people involved. Like if it's a wedding, it would be the bride and groom and families, right? Whatever they want it to be, just with their visuals, right? They've seen weddings, they've been to weddings without any influence or without any help from any professionals. And then there's another one where it's a created outcome, where you have everybody involved, cohesively working together, collaborating with that outcome, right? Who knows how you're going to get there, and it either is a yes or no. It's a heck yes or a heck no. You either fulfill upon all the emotions and it happens when it was going to happen, or it doesn't. There's too much noise within. Well, and here's the thing. All you can do is all you can do. If you feel like you've committed to everything that you said you were going to do with integrity, and you manned up when you're out of integrity, that's driven by your feelings, right? The work is just the work. That's the logical part. But how you feel about the work you did, if it's a work project or whatever, that's the only thing that you're going to walk away with. Where if you served the client the best that you knew how, and they still went somewhere else, you can make yourself wrong all you want, but it's like, did you do everything with integrity?
Right.
Did you tell everybody what you said you were going to do when you did it, and you delivered upon that? Okay, well then consider that it's on them, right?
Yeah.
That the issues that they have are on their point of view, or if you've asked about why this didn't go well or why you're going somewhere else and they didn't give you an answer, you've made it perfectly available that you want to talk about this.
Right.
All you can do is all you can do. But what I'm trying to say is that when you're putting together purpose and intentions, that's not the outcome.
No,
that gets you on the path to where you want to go.
You know how many stories there are out there where you ask people, so how did this come about? Well, originally I meant to make this blueprint for this house just for one. And then I thought, wow, maybe I want to make it Airbnb and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you start out with one intention and it's amazing because when you take action, it's amazing. It may not end up being what you thought. It may be greater than what you wish for. And what excitement in that to know that if you have intentions for something, especially if they're for good, that they go from there to the fruition of something grander than you even thought. Like they say, build and they will come. If you build or you have an idea and then all of a sudden it just takes off, your intention was maybe not, well, I didn't know everybody was going to like this or that. I mean, it's just that it starts with the planting of a seed. It starts with creating something. I mean, even look at the houses on a property that people have started out with a starter home. And they're like, shit, we like the location. Let's add an addition. Oh, shit, let's put a shed in the back. Oh, let's 3-car garage. And I've seen it here in Billings. As a matter of fact, one house is just like the property's all house and car garage. I mean, like it didn't start out that way. But again, it's the creation and the desire and saying, we love our neighbors. We don't want to move and blah, blah, blah. It's just the purpose and intention of anything.
Right. Well, and one of the quotes that really hit me hard that parallels this is, and there's several variations of it, imperfectly done is better than perfectly undone.
Yeah, I love that.
There's a lot of different variations of that, and that's something I personally and professionally have struggled with because I'm a perfectionist. I'm moving away from that, but it's like what the purpose and intention is for some outcome of some kind, right? Yeah. Now, is that where the imperfectly done is better than perfectly undone? Is that, does it really matter? I mean, now, obviously, if you have deadlines and all that, that's important to keep in mind. But what is the fulfillment worth to you that if you completed something you said you would do before before on time, right? That's right. Number one. Number two is that getting in your own way from the step that you create the purpose and intention. You have the metrics or you have the roadmap to get you there, right? Yeah. But if you get it done, don't dwell on, oh my God, I didn't do it as early as I could, blah, 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 blah. No, give all that up. You did it.
It's perfect you said that because yesterday I started the whole Tribune's leadership series, right? Okay. And my first girl, the interview was going great, but I had the little, background noise. So I had muted myself. So I came on stage. She goes, Lynn, did I lose you? And I undid my mic. So it was like maybe a second that we had the thing of, Lynn, did I lose you? I'm like, oh, I need to unmic. So we were done recording. And she goes, so are you going to back and edit the tape? I said, edit it for what? She goes, the part where I said you were muted? I'm like, no. I said, we're real people doing a real live. You don't edit live. You let it be natural. I said, we're showing we're human beings and not perfection. She goes, oh, okay. And so again, I was like, we just finished your interview. You just enjoyed all the questions I asked you and helped you get your stuff out there. Are you not looking at the positive of all this? So I just chuckled about anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Well, because we're all human beings, and how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know? It's like, could you imagine like Michael Jordan, shooting more, making more bad shots than good shots, or Thomas Edison, 10,000 times with the light bulb.
Good example. The fact that she was worried about me saying, Lynn, I lost you for a minute, and that being natural, I said, you are great. It's all about you. So what if I mute for a minute and that was a little glitch? Like you're missing the whole intention of this interview, So again, don't micromanage everything that you desire to a point, even like a freaking wedding. Somebody's, they didn't have that purple napkins at my table. Who the hell knew you're going to have purple napkins on the table? Like, really? Is that what you're going to look at the whole damn thing? I mean, like, I don't know. We just get so crazy up here. Eman says, go ahead, read it.
I was marked late, but it was Facebook. I was laughing about it.
So, I mean, truly, it's just
now, when we look at purpose and intention, I mean, and I only can speak for myself, but it's direct. Usually, there's not a lot of hyperbole, and it's concise, right?
Right.
But we're driven by the feeling. But by giving ourselves the time, there's not a lot of noise. There's no noise, right? Because it's some time that you take for yourself, just like the clarity we talked about yesterday. Is that you're not going to go on in droves about purpose and intention.
No.
You know what I mean? Because in order for you to put a purpose and intention into place, you got to understand what it is.
Right.
You know?
Action. Yeah, it's all about that action behind the purpose and intention. Without that action, purpose and intention doesn't even come to play.
Well, and if it gets very intense and you don't have the mental muscles or the physical muscles to actually see it through, and the more or the larger it is and the more robust it is, more likely, if your purpose and intention is really large and it just goes on and on and on, like if you were to describe it, you're probably never going to get started.
Yeah.
Never going to get started.
Now,
in my opinion, I would rather start with the outcome in mind. Just, I want to complete this project, right?
Yep.
You remove all meaning, you remove all feelings from it, that it's done.
Right.
If I'm working on a guide or a digital book or something like that, it's with my graphic designer. They have all the imagery. They know my branding colors. They know the content because I send it to them.
Right.
Right. That's done. Don't dwell on it. Right. That it's like, oh man, maybe I could have used that word or that word.
It's knowing when to let go.
Yes.
Let go and know that if your intention was right, and that's just it, right? You could write whatever it came and, it flowed and you did really well. And then you sit back and you give it to the editor and you're like doubting yourself. Don't doubt yourself till they see it, find out. Don't worry till you need to. But it's truly funny how we have that thing of saying, I don't know if that was right, but first time around, intuition knows. We don't. We just have a way of sabotaging our intuition all the time.
One of the things that comes to mind is like let's say somebody, they gave up, having it be perfect, and they just did it, right? Just by the sheer quantity. Like let's say I have 15 guides or digital ebooks, right? Well, after you've came to that level, well, you're giving up that it has to look a certain way. The wording could be different. I might think differently than now, right?
Check this out.
But when you look at it on the flip side, just let me finish.
Okay.
When you flip it, it's like versus the person that doesn't even have one book out, or doesn't even get started, or even having a column, or writing for an organization or whatever that is, right? So it's like, that there's 15 guides there that I wrote. So intellectual property versus what is everybody going to think, and I don't have anything.
Yeah.
and unfortunately, the only person that's getting in the way is ourselves. That's the ultimate disappointing part.
I got another example for you as far as not perfection. Okay. Parker Kane, he does bebopping. Okay.
Yep. I watched that. Yeah.
So check this out. This guy with his brother or cousin or something, they go into McDonald's and he decides to do this bebop with a straw. And like he said, it was a shitty video. I mean, he just didn't like it. Do you know that that's been watched over 1 billion times? Yep. And even McDonald's liked it, that they used that thing there. And his friend or cousin, whoever posted it, he's like, that wasn't even good.
Right.
I mean, that changed his life.
Right.
I mean, that's just perfect example there.
Well, and see that the road from purpose and intention to outcome, right? That whole deal, however long it is with the time and all of that, who knows what's going to happen throughout that as long as you reach the outcome.
Right.
Right. And it's like in Parker's scenario, it's like, And it's like, I think that there's a humility to it, right? That you're a person with some skills, just an average person. And it's like, you just kept doing it your craft.
Yeah.
You know, you figure, I mean, beatboxing, I could only imagine, like, you know, somebody to be naturally gifted, but then to acquire the demand for that.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I don't know how many people that beatbox, but given the sounds I've heard from his interview with Ken, oh my goodness, you
Yeah.
know, like how many, I couldn't even think about making sounds with my mouth like that. You
Yeah.
know?
So again, it's one of those things that if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't have catapulted him for the desire, you know, the interest that people have for him doing that.
Right.
So again, it just really comes. We were in a clubhouse room and somebody Venmo'd him or Cash Apped him $500 right on the spot,
Yeah.
so that to lock him in to get him to do a bebop thing for him. 500, like he got it just like that. Boom. I
I
mean,
think that there's you know, not to get spiritual or whatever, but I think that there's something in the universe that speaks to that. You know, is that when you make yourself available, you know what your outcome is, right? It's like, okay, I want to get my art out there.
mm-hmm.
Is that you leave, you know, whatever that is, or his metrics for determining how he's going to get his art out there. Everything that is in between is the surprise, is the, oh my goodness, like this is really taking off, right?
Yeah.
Or and it's the moments that you can't anticipate because they haven't happened yet. You know, like for instance, like he does he's on a clubhouse room and all of a sudden somebody wants to pay him $500 for an intro or something, right? Well, he put himself in a place of just showing up and things happen.
Yeah.
It's like anybody, you know.
Well, read the books, the Soup for the Soul stories.
Yep.
I mean, when you see where people's intentions or what happened, I mean, like, gosh, I need to read some of those stories again. They're just amazing stories.
Yep.
And I mean, you just need, that's why it's important for people to tell their stories, because when people can resonate and realize, shit, we all have stuff going, but that perpetuates, and you know, that can light up somebody's life. And the fact that you realize, shit, I went through all that stuff, it does me no good now to just keep it to myself. I could share it with somebody else that maybe they can empathize, and maybe I can make a difference in somebody's life. And that's where I'm at now. It's like, you know, I'm going to work on my story and my life and all that stuff, just because, you know, it's one of those things that might help other people, you know.
And I think that when we look at outcome, I think that it gets murky for a lot of people, just like on the front end where you get in your head about it, it gets very noisy and all of that. And it's like, all it is us getting in our own way and us comparing ourselves to other people, right? Also, I think on the back end, when it comes to outcome, is what is that going to look like? What is that going to look like? Well, that's a creation, right? And you may not know what the outcome is, but did you achieve the outcome or not? I think that when you start digging down deep and all of that versus being surprised and gravitate your efforts to that outcome, I think you figure out what it is. Now, is it okay to create the outcome before it actually happens? Yeah, because you're going to be drawn to it. But as long as you complete the outcome, either you did or you didn't. What gets in the way is the validation and all the excuses and blame, right? That's what makes it that's what gets people nowhere, is because, oh, I should have did it sooner. I should have did it. Okay, so you didn't, you know, I didn't do that book sooner. Okay, well, you're not giving yourself credit for something that'll be your legacy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it just blows my doors off that it's like you wrote a freaking book, right?
Yeah.
For instance.
Yeah.
But you're giving yourself more negativity because you didn't complete it as soon as you should have, versus just that you got it done.
Look at the people that get degrees when they're 60, 90 years old.
Yep.
So what? They got it done. They accomplished, you know, it took them whatever. It just, again, when you accomplish something, why are you going to put negative to that instead of the positive? Finally, I got that off my list.
Right. One of the best things that we can do is and I know it's tough to do because you can't separate emotion from how we think. I mean, especially if it's something heartfelt or something that you're really bringing your life on the court to achieve, your feelings are naturally going to be there, right? But the best thing is to separate your feelings from just the reality, like, what's my purpose and intention for this project? You know, what's my purpose and intention for a summer vacation? whatever it is that you're working on, as long as you achieve what it is, allow yourself to be surprised if more happens or if it takes you in different directions than just, I had a great vacation. Okay. What about it made it that way? Was that anticipated? Did you know that those people were going to have that much fun? How long has it been? I mean, there's stories upon stories within those outcomes that we create. But if you don't bring them to life, if you're not feeling some sense of achievement and aliveness, it's pointless.
Yeah.
It's pointless.
And so people's purpose and intentions are something that we take that for granted. I mean, because you get so into the minutia of every day that you just forget your purpose of breathing.
Well, and for people that have no purpose or intention, like they have not derived at that or wrote down a to-do list or manifested that or created that, there's a root there about what they may or may not have achieved and why their list gets longer. But to those people that do create lists of purpose of intention, like Jeffrey Gitomer said, is that, tomorrow's workday starts the night before. How are you going to create a roadmap for something you haven't even identified yet? This is not rocket science. You don't need $1 million. You need a freaking notebook and some peace and quiet and a pen.
How am I going to get ready for my trip at 6 o'clock in the morning if I don't pack my car the day before?
Or think about like, holy crap, man, I've been waiting for this, and I'm going to be at about 2 o'clock. I'm going to call my friend that I'll be there by 7. I've got a bunch of videos to watch or podcasts to listen to. You stockpile this stuff so your mind is nurtured throughout the trip, just like Dale Carnegie said. Or Dale Carnegie or Earl Nightingale said, it's like, make your vehicle your library.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're preparing for this. Well, you know that there's potential time, many hours of boredom.
Oh, yeah.
But you tune it out by doing something else.
Oh, yeah. I've got a lot of books on tape already.
Yeah.
So,
see, that's the purpose and intention hey, I'm going to be locked in a vehicle for hours on end. But I'm going to make sure that this time is rewarding.
Oh, yeah. There's multitasking everywhere. Anything you go.
Well, driving, I'm not a huge fan of multitasking because the brain can't do that effectively.
Driving and listening.
Right.
That's multitasking to me.
Well, right. But I'm just saying, though, it's like you're doing something with that time versus, oh, my God, how many more hundreds of hours?
Yeah.
You're not going to enjoy any of it because you're
been there, done that a few times, and it's usually the last hour to for my kids and I, we would drive straight through. I mean, we'd drive 750 miles to my brother's Sioux Falls, and then from there we spend the night, and then we'd go 16 hours straight. But by the time I got to Rochester, New York, my eyeballs were so dry. The kids are like, "Come on, Mom!" Like, I can't freaking see, kids. No drops, or And so again, it's the way you look at it. That last 10 miles could feel like hours if you let it.
Well, I think one of the things too is that we're talking a lot about independence. We're talking a lot about our own journey and our own open road. But also, though, just remember is that nothing fulfilling is ever done alone, right? So if we're using Lynn's upcoming trip in June, it's like, okay, however she created, and made her trip purposeful, like on this day I'm going to do this, on this day I'm going to do this, whatever that is that there's mile markers along the way.
Yeah.
You're going to call this person or like, hey, on Tuesday at noon, let's talk because by that time I should be in wherever.
Yeah.
It's something to look forward to. Just like a project you're creating or something that you want to do, have those people around you.
Absolutely.
That'll kick your butt. I'm not a huge fan of the cheerleaders. In my opinion, there's a difference between a cheerleader and a coach. Now, somebody doesn't have to be somebody you pay or whatever, but somebody that that's going to hold you accountable and they're not going to give you a free pass.
We're going to have to figure out what episode that was so that when we refer, what episode, blah, 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 such a thing. I'm going to do that because I thought about that the last time. Like, go to that one. We know about the coach and teach thing.
And it's like all of this stuff is free, but we don't give ourselves the freedom to do it.
I know.
You know, like intention. What do I want today to look like? Well, to have a say in the matter is the ultimate freedom.
And to create what you want it to be.
When the day, oh, that day sucked. Okay, what'd you put at stake? Nothing. Well,
I
you
know.
can't get something from something you don't declare, and then when you don't get it, then you wonder why. Like, that just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I wish people would understand that whole get off that hamster wheel.
Yep.
Because it's just perpetually more than you want. And, keep talking about how miserable you are. See what happens.
Yeah. Just like thinking about stuff, but then you never take any action.
Well, it's just like a few times. I mean, I ended up in the heart unit a few times, and they couldn't understand how all of a sudden I got better. And I literally, I said to myself, you're going to be better. And I mean, I had a bridal bachelorette thing to do and this and that. And it was no, I've got it. I willed myself better, but I could have sat there and kept looking at numbers. Like, oh shit, I'm down to 20. Oh shit's going down. I mean, I was not going to fight. I'm going to fight the fight. I mean, I've been there, done that. I mean, one time I'm not going to be lucky. I mean, God's going to say, Lynn, come on, you're going. But, in my will, though, I really feel like you can have the will to live or die when you're at those situations. Either give in and say, I'm checking out or I'm checking in. And, maybe later I'll be like, shit, why didn't I leave a lot sooner? But hey, right now, I look at it that I'm just so blessed to be here. And I just want to give that, sunshine as much as I can. But truly, it's one of those things. We're getting close to ending up here. And we don't have the actions.
No, we're good. We got to, what are your final words for everybody? Let's move to that.
Final words are just realize that aim for something. I don't care what you're aiming for,
right,
but have an intention to aim for something that's going to make you happy. It may not come into fruition right away.
Right. But you're on the path.
Right. But if you have some kind of something you're hoping to achieve, it'll happen along the way. Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew I would be speaking globally, and I have, and I do, all over the world, Clubhouse and now Tribune and blah, blah, blah. I knew those things were going to happen, but they wouldn't have happened if I didn't show my passion and I didn't show up, even if I didn't want to show up or whatever. I mean, it's just, this is something that I created for myself, and I'm still giving, and I'm doing, 4 or 5 podcasts, whatever. I just love doing that. And that's my mission right now. I don't know how it's all going to end up, but my good intentions and my mission is just to show up and, give love and light to everybody and be my goofy self. And even if I mess up in somebody's interview, oh, well, that's, it's just, I'm showing. I may not be perfect. I may not be able to use my big words sometimes because neurologically, I don't care. I'm showing up. I surround myself with people that support me, that laugh alongside me. They're not laughing at me. They're laughing with me. It's creating and letting go of the resistance and the wet wood. And I'm done speaking.
You see, everybody, how she scooted in her famous word for the past 3 weeks, wet wood, before the end of our show today. You see that right there? She just so sneaky, like she had it on her post-it note. Hey, I must not forget to say wet wood. Okay, got it. The show cannot be complete. So for me, there's 2 things. Is number 1, the power of silence. And I know that I've referenced it several times, but it's like yesterday was about clarity. Today's about purpose and intention. I don't know anybody that'd be able to do this unless you give yourself time to do that in peace and quiet. I don't know anybody, right? Because when your brain is figuring out all everybody else's stuff, how you gonna get in touch with yourself, right? And for me, it's early in the morning, before the sun comes up, with a nice cup of coffee. It's just allow myself to go, right? Can I erase what's on the page? Absolutely. I can rip it out and start again, right? But that's where everything begins, is power of silence, As Jeffrey Gitomer says, how much time are you giving yourself on a daily basis to think? Not enough, right? And if we look at our daily calendar, where is thinking? Where's a body of thinking in that calendar?
Good point.
It doesn't exist. Number 2 is reverse engineering the outcome you want to have, right? However clear or however accurate that outcome is that you want to manifest and put out there in the world, create what it is, and then reverse engineer how you're going to get there. That, in my opinion, by being a visual learner, when I create, weddings and corporate events, I'd rather look at the outcome, the feelings, the actions. What is everybody want face? Are they going to be smiling? Or are they going to be tearing with joy? Right? Let's go for those moments and then scale it back to how we're going to create it versus looking at it and it's like, that's the outcome, but I'm still here in quicksand. No, you're never going to get there with all the noise and self-belief and all that kind of stuff in the way versus what is the outcome I want to have? Do I want to complete that running exercise? Do I want to complete that book? Whatever it is. Okay, that's the goal. Don't add anything else to it. Maybe by when. But the more granular and the more factual you can make it, the less your brain is going to go off and make concessions about, well, maybe another week or maybe another month. And then that's what got you into the place of wanting to complete it because you kept putting it off. So power of silence. Number 2 is reverse engineer the outcome. Those are my little takeaways for everybody today for day number 2 of the week of the open road.
I love it. Well, everyone, it's time for us to leave, and we will see you tomorrow.
Day 3 is tomorrow. See you then.
Bye.